Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain biking, you are in the right place. Picture your last really fun group ride. You're back at the parking lot. The vibe is high. The stoke is high. Everyone's talking about mountain bike tech, progression, nutrition. That's what we do every week here on the Ride and Laugh podcast. You love bikes. We love bikes. Let's drop in. Sage, season 2, episode 1. How you feeling, buddy?
Yo, man, I am so excited to get this started. We had an amazing vacation. I can't wait to get into it. Danny, how are you doing?
I am doing outstanding. I'm excited to get back to our regular long-form weekly podcast.
Yes.
As all of our listeners know, we took some time off after recording the entire first season, which is awesome. If you haven't heard all those episodes, go back and listen. The evolution of the Ride and Laugh podcast was really cool, but the evolution of your and my riding and our ability and our progression is really amazing. Everyone, we are on this journey together. We are all getting better riding bikes and all just having more and more fun on bikes. That's the idea.
Yeah.
We had all these quick grips recorded. We had pre-recorded, and then there was quite a bit of editing and still work to be done. But we had pre-recorded these quick rips of just fun subjects that we enjoy talking about, mountain bike subjects, to be able to still have something to drop every week, every Wednesday. And on the quick rips, we got a lot of really good comments and a lot of really good conversation. And we don't really have time to go through all of them. And, because that would really take up like the first half of the season, I think, But thank you everyone for watching, listening, commenting. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. They're really fun. They're really great on YouTube also. Well, should we talk about what we've been doing before we get into the reviews of the quick rips? Maybe we should talk about what we've been doing in between the last episode and this episode.
Oh man, just to give a quick recap, I guess. Danny and Lauren were nice enough to fly me out to Arizona, and I got to spend 3.5 weeks almost of just beautiful Arizona weather, Arizona riding, Arizona friends. I almost said I was AZ'd out, but I'm not AZ'd out. I'm still yearning for more.
Yeah, it was awesome. So Sage came out to visit, and it was a nice long visit, and gratitude for you being able to do that and for everything that came together. And everyone that we met here during that time and everyone that we rode with and all the Arizona friends. And we hit so many trails. I mean, we cannot review everything that we did on this episode because it is so much. And part of that is because the Arizona weather, when it's not in the summer, it gets hot, but it's always sunny. It's always sunny. You had great weather when you were here. It was sunny every day. It's not like, if it rains or if it's too wet or, we'll take a day off. No, we were just like riding every day. And I mean, we didn't really intend that. We thought we would ride 2, 3, 4 times a week. And we rode just about every day. And if I took a day off to spend with my family, you still went for a ride. It was incredible. So many good trails.
Amazing. Yeah.
And we did a couple of mini road trips. We got up to Sedona for a couple of days. We went down to Tucson. And it was just awesome. Just so much to talk about. And then on the trip, there was so much progression. There was so much, I think, kind of revelations on our mindset. And wow, I realized I was doing this and I can do that. And there's so much perspective shift. And that's what we're here for. That's what we talk about on the Ride and Laugh podcast, is how to make each ride as joyful and as fun as possible, whether that means progression or flow or just being present. So excited to get into it.
Let's do it.
Tough to know where to start. There's so much good stuff. So much good stuff. We're going to start with a couple of comments from some of these quick rips. And I have to do the most recent quick rip was on the pump track. And in that episode, we hilariously floundered on what to call the humps or the bumps. And we said, hey, listeners, let us know. What do you call those things? And immediately people commented in rollers. They're called rollers. Yeah. Everybody knows that. Yeah. It's pretty impressive that you guys missed it. So thank you, everybody. But if we knew they were called rollers, then we wouldn't have been able to make all those hunchback jokes. And
exactly. Yeah.
What other podcast are you tuning into with hunchback humor like this?
This is it, baby. This is
That's right. You come for the riding, you stay for the hunchback jokes. Yes. And I apologize. I do apologize to our hunchback listeners.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Listener. Unsubscribing right now. Yes. I do think it's funny that the hump is a humpback and a hunchback the same thing. That's where it came from, right? Because we were saying pump the hump, a humpback and a hunchback. Yes. Are they the same thing? Now I'm really offending the hunchback.
Yeah, and the whales, because the whales are actually a humpback. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's all sorts of wrong things are happening here. But yeah, check out we do love pump tracks though. And we got to the pump track on this trip, and you got to ride the Velo Solutions pump track on the dirt jumper and the BMX, and you started hitting the transfer. You started showing me what was possible, things that I was nervous about, and you started hitting the transfer from one part of the turn into another part of the turn. And now when I go there, I'm practicing that. It's just like I didn't know that was in my wheelhouse. And you're like, we could do this.
Cool. I didn't know it was in my wheelhouse either. I just we just kind of went for it.
Yeah. Fresh eyes. Yeah. All right. On these top 9 mountain bike innovations changed mountain biking forever. Do you agree? And we had our innovations, and we asked for listeners to send in their innovations, and we got some really interesting ones. So a few people mentioned rim protection. So the Cush Core, the tire insert, which we don't run them a ton, but that's a pretty big innovation, and they're pretty useful. What about mountain bike lights? How good the lights have gotten for your night riding or your
absolutely
or your morning rides. And then I thought this was a really interesting one: carbon fiber. Just the material carbon fiber. We go back, right? And do you remember when we were riding aluminum and steel bikes, and carbon fiber was coming out, and there was a big debate like, will it? No, I'm going to break that. That's plastic. It's not going to last. It's not going to hold up.
Yeah.
And we did all this research to see whether or not it was strong enough.
Yeah. I mean, once again, our listeners and viewers have come through and really pulled a bunch of things. And I have to agree. The carbon innovation has been amazing. And I do have to go back on what I said, because, when we went to the Velo Solutions pump track, which you were just talking about, your BMX bike actually has cantilever brakes. And my goodness, holy crap, it's basically riding with no brakes. And maybe I would put that ahead of the dropper after that experience. That was quite scary, not being able to stop.
I mean, that bike is really not designed to slow down. But I think that the point that you're making is, we were talking about whether or not the dropper post is more important or disc brakes.
Yes.
And if you haven't ridden with brakes that don't work right, we really take disc brakes for granted now. But when you're riding cantilever brakes and they get wet and you don't slow down, like you just don't have like good stopping speed, you don't have good modulation. I mean, they were just a nightmare.
Yeah.
Not having a dropper post, I mean, that's a tough one too. That's a tough one too.
I know.
So,
yeah.
Pedal through anything. Quick rip. 6 key mountain bike moves to conquer slow speed tech, which another great one to watch on YouTube. It was a really fun episode to record. If you haven't watched it on YouTube, watch it on YouTube. It's really cool. And we had a few comments talking about the importance of brake modulation in slow speed tech. And we were talking about what kind of tech did we miss? And a few people had commented on roots, which I thought was a really good comment, something that we didn't touch on.
Yes. Another one that we missed. Yes. Again, the listeners coming through. I didn't think about the roots, but you're right. Like, especially in the Pacific Northwest, the roots can get quite gnarly. I mean, we got some roots over here on the East Coast, and you don't really have many in Arizona. I mean, I guess you could if you went to Tucson or Flagstaff, but really in like that SoMo area, there's not many roots.
I haven't seen a root in a long time. I'm in the valley. I'm in Phoenix. I haven't seen a root in a really long time. Yeah. Root withdrawal. And I don't miss them. I don't know. I don't miss them. Yeah.
No, they're especially tough because when they get wet, or if the bark comes off, you get that like slimy coating, So roots are definitely a slow speed tech thing that we completely missed. So thank you, listeners. That was fantastic.
Yeah, and in some parts of the world, the routes can get really big. They can get really big. Yeah. They can be network. You can have trails with networks of routes. You know, we've been on certainly in the Northeast, but I know in other parts of the world, you know, where they have bigger trees, the roots get more and more complex. And a lot of times the roots, if you think about a tree, the roots are just going to be naturally off camber. So now you're riding wood. Yeah. That is like slanting you off of the trail. And once that stuff starts to get wet, now it's slippery. There's a real technique and a real trust to going over those routes with speed and staying centered and keeping it moving, keeping the wheels rolling, which is definitely like a slow speed technique moving, you know, just keep it rolling, keep pedaling, keep going. You got it. Yeah. All right. Well, I want to get your overall impressions of Arizona. You had a lot of theories coming in about places that I was riding and a lot of ideas, but actually getting like tires on the dirt. What was your big picture impression of riding in Arizona?
You know, one of the things that I do is I like to set goals, but I do not like to set expectations. However, I did go into that Arizona trip with one expectation. And that was, I was going to break the hug barrier for you. Hug progression was on the line. I came through the very first time I met Jeff. It was even before I said hello. I went right in for the hug and I broke the hug barrier for you. You're welcome.
Totally true. You got out of the car. The ride hadn't even started yet. You saw Jeff Windsor and, you know, I've been riding with him. You've been looking at video of him and you just went in and you were like, hey, bring it in. And you gave him a big hug. And you know, I'm like, this guy he's getting a hug right away. I haven't even got a hug yet. Then it was awkward. You know, did we wait till the end of the ride or was Jeff may have given me like a pity hug at that point? He might've been like, all right, come on. Pity hug. Poor Dan needs a hug too.
Oh, poor Dan.
But, man, we proceeded to that hug was a good start. It was a good start. We proceeded to have a great day, a great ride. And then the hugs from that point on were plentiful because we were just doing things we didn't think that we could do. You know what? I should rephrase that. We were doing things that I didn't think I could do. Because you looked at so many things and said, we got this, or I think we can do this, or I think I can do this. Yeah. And there were just so many things that you brought a different perspective to. Yeah. And we didn't go into the ride thinking, I need to progress. I need to get something new. We need something for Instagram. It just happened. Yeah. What was your attitude going into these rides?
You know, the attitude didn't change at all. And that is, you know, I didn't have expectations. I didn't have, you know, any kind of fear built in. I didn't have the stories behind these features or like, there was no preconceived anything. So when I would get to a feature, I'm looking at it with fresh eyes. I don't know about any of the crashes or any of the stories about any of these things. And I'm just like, can I do this? Yeah, I can do it. And then I was like, Dan, you could do this too. Like, I know you well enough that this can happen. And I think a great example of this was when we were at Hawes and we were doing the big drop at the bottom of, what is that trail? Three Sisters, Big Sister.
No. Yes. There's the three bitches.
Okay. Yes.
There's Big Sister and there's Twisted Sister. There's no three sisters.
There's no three sisters.
But if there was, they would be into you, man. Those three sisters. You'd have your hands full, let me tell you.
Well, there is one
Gmail. On any sisters that are, if there's three of you, Sage is ready. Yeah. Sage is ready. You're like, right? I'm not ready for three sisters. All right, one sister at a time.
One sister at a time. But anyway, at the bottom of this trail or the intersection of this trail, there's this huge drop that has a reputation that I wasn't aware of. So when you told me about this drop, you're like, hey, there's a drop coming up. I took a look at it and I was like, yeah, this is, and by the way, it's a big drop. I don't want to make it sound like it's not a big deal. It's a big deal, but we've done drops of that size and it is janky coming in, but everything about it just seemed like, yeah, we got this. We can do this. And the reputation was, and I found this out later, was there are 2 rocks in the landing, and they call it the goalpost drop, I guess, because there were so many people that were hitting these rocks.
Were there? I don't know if anyone ever actually hit the rocks. Everyone's just scared of hitting the rocks. The landing is a little bit of a sniper landing. You know what? There's probably like 1 or 2 stories that just like percolated and took on a life of their own. But everyone I know, and I ride with some very high level riders, everyone I know that would ride by this thing, and it's kind of in a social spot. You know, it's this intersection where people stop. And so like everyone's watching you do, if you do that, and it's not in the flow of the trail either. You like kind of have to like almost go out of your way to hit it. Unless you're coming from a different direction. But even then, and so if people stop and look at it. And yeah, it definitely has a reputation. And the reputation is, I don't like where those rocks are in the landing. I'm not doing it.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm not doing it. Well, if none of these guys are doing it, I'm not doing it. But you saw it and you were like, yeah, no problem. Yeah. And it's just really interesting. Yeah. I just had that negative. I had that no in my mind. And you say this all the time. Say yes. Say yes to the ride. Say yes to life. Say yes to everything. Right. And I went into it with fresh eyes. And after you said, yeah, no problem. And did you do a run up or did you just do it? Maybe you did a run up.
I think I might have done a run up. I definitely marked the rock because you can't see the landing. It's so large you can't see it. So I put a little mark on the rock. But for me, like I don't focus on what could go wrong. I always focus on what's the best that can happen. So for me, I'm not even looking at those 2 rocks. They're not even entering my vision. They're not entering my thought. I didn't process it. It was only after I completed the drop that they told me about the 2 rocks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice that. But that's kind of my point, is like, you know, I'm going into all these features and I don't have all these things weighing into my brain. You know, I'm essentially riding it blind in a way. And yeah, as soon as I did it, it was 100% smooth as I thought it would be. I turned around to you. I was like, you're up, man. This is in your wheelhouse. You got this. And man, you did it so well. And then Mike did it and he looked amazing.
Yeah. So Mike's one of the guys that rides with me out here, and he's really good. He's really good in the air, and he's a really talented, really good rider. He was like, you know, I've been looking at that thing for like 2 years. I've been doing run-ups and it was just in his head. And then finally he sent it and he was like, I can't believe I waited this long. He looked awesome.
Right.
It was awesome. Yeah. What happened? How does that happen? You start unlocking the confidence in other people. The skills are in there. Like Mike had all the skills to send that drop. He just needed the yes from the universe to tell him now at the time.
I think it really helps when you see someone that you trust go and do something. You know, it's not enough to just have somebody say, yeah, you can do it. To be able to see somebody that you know well do it. Like, I mean, in this case in Arizona, you know, that was me for a lot of these, but there have been plenty of other times. In fact, in Arizona, we were at, what was that Patagonia jump? No, what was it? Papago. The Papago jump place.
Papago, yes. Oh my gosh, those jumps were crazy.
Yes. This is a place that you took the lead.
Jumps. Yes.
Yeah. You took the lead. Yeah. I did not want to hit this giant table. It seemed massive. There's this giant ravine going into it. You had like a ton of speed and I couldn't pull the trigger. And you went and, you know, typical Danny, you're the man when it comes to lippy jumps. You sent this thing, you turned around, you said, Sage, you absolutely have it. That was all the assurance that I needed. That was the thing that not broke the camel's back, but like, that's what got me over the hump, so to say. I sent this thing and it was awesome.
Our hunchback listeners like, now you can use the hump. Oh, I see how it is. You still want to use the hump in your conversation? You want to alienate hunchbacks?
Yes.
Yeah, that was really interesting because most of that day you were doing everything first and feeling good. And then you showed me that line, and it has a drop, and then it has like a sizable tabletop jump. And I get up there, and I was just like, "Oh, I think I got this." I think I did a run up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna send. This is," and like all of a sudden the confidence just clicked, and that was this whole trip was just the confidence just clicking and looking at things with different angles, with different eyes. It was really really cool. One of our quick rips was the pros know elite riders have mountain bike mindset tools.
Yeah.
And if you haven't heard this one, this is one of my favorite episodes. It's short. It's a great one to listen to on the way to the trails because it's all about the ride and laugh mindset. It's all about staying present, letting go of expectations, and staying positive, and let's see what happens. Don't go in with anxiety or put pressure on yourself. And one of our comments on that was from Zan at Sploosh MTB. Great dude, great channel. Check out his YouTube channel. High vibe guy, really great comments. Always really intelligent, really great rider. And Zan mentioned the importance of positivity, right? Yeah. And I just keep going back. I was struggling with this a lot, and I just keep going back to something that you said on that episode is let the ride be what it will be. Don't go in with expectations. Don't go in with anxiety. Less control means more control.
Yeah.
This is something that we talked about a lot during the trip was when we let go of trying to control the situation, we're letting go of the narrow set of outcomes that we're imagining and that we're grasping for, and we allow a much broader set of outcomes to actually happen. And that's where the magic comes in. That's where the progression comes in. That's where I didn't know I had that in me. But we have a lot of mountain bike skill in us that we're not utilizing.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I learned on this trip was that, and we talk about this all the time, I'm better than I thought I was. Listener, you are a better rider than you think you are. Just stop thinking.
Yeah.
And let those skills kind of come out, and they're going to come out in perfect timing and in the flow of the ride and the flow of the day. But let the ride be what it will be.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? A lot of times, like you'll like talk yourself out of something because you're thinking about it so much, you know? So you get to some of these features and like, oh, I don't know. And then by the time you get to the feature, you're exhausted. You've gone through all the negative scenarios in your brain and you're just exhausted, you know? So really being present, letting the ride develop, you know, letting yourself have fun, enjoy, stack wins, and then get to the feature. And you haven't thought about it at all, but you've been stacking all these wins. You've been feeling good. You've been feeling positive. Suddenly you look at this feature and you know what? It's not a big deal. And you either got it or you don't. And if you don't, let it go. Grace, walk away. I had a big grace moment for myself, which, you know what? It actually challenged me. We had gone up to Sedona. And by the way, Sedona, amazing, unbelievable. It's everything that you think it would be and the videos do not do it justice. It's absolutely beautiful. The riding is fantastic. And one of the trails that I desperately wanted to hit was Hardline. This is a new double black trail. It's pro level. This thing, the consequence of falling off of this thing is severe injury to death. I mean, it's no joke. And I really, really, really wanted to go with this. And I got to that trail and we had just done a bunch of riding beforehand. We did all of Hardline, which is another double black trail just to get to it.
Just for context, we had 2 days in Sedona. We wanted to ride all of the good trails right away, immediately. So of course we put together mega rides.
Typical,
we got 2 days. We have to ride everything. Yes. So we did a Hardline loop. Hardline is a double black tech trail. It's and then it's a significant climb to get up to it, and then it's it's really fun. And you were slaying on that trail. You were riding awesome on that trail.
Great.
It's slow and high speed tech, but it's your wheelhouse, and it's slabs and you were taking like great lines. You were centered. You were flowing. You were feeling really good. However, it's still Arizona, even though Sedona's cooler. It's still Arizona. You need to be hydrated. The sun still it's still dry as crazy. It's just crazy dry. Like you dry out here so fast. It's kind of a weird feeling if you're not used to it. And the sun's beating down on you. There's very little shade. So to get to Hardline, you do the climbing portion of Hardline again. So you have to climb out. I mean, there's a long climb to get out of Hardline, and then there's a long climb to get back into Hardline, and then eventually detour over to Hardline. We do 3/4 of Hardline, which has a lot of tech, a lot of tough moves, and then you get to the crux move, and that's what you're talking about. The crux move, and if you're watching on YouTube right now, you'll see it. There's a huge chasm. I always mess up this word. There's a huge chasm.
Chasm. For sure.
Yeah, chasm. There's a huge hole. So apparently the pros, like Remy has written right down the metal of this thing, which is mind-boggling. It looks like it's about 70 feet. Yeah. The really hard line for mortal mountain bikers is to the right, and it goes over this really weird kind of like rock bump. You're really close against the cliff edge. And if you fall off to the left, it's, as Sage would say, dunzos.
Yeah, man,
so you got to this part and you were, and something shifted inside of you.
It had been shifting. It was on the second climb up Hardline again. I started feeling not myself. And so by the time I got to Hardline, I was literally feeling faint. Like I couldn't stand. Like I was kind of swaying back and forth, and I had to sit. So while you guys were discussing how to tackle this thing, I actually had a seat on the rock, and I just was like, oh my goodness, I can't bring myself to do this as much as I want to. I knew that wasn't the right move, and it killed me. It killed me inside because I really wanted to do this. I know I can do it, and to walk away from something like that because, I don't know when I'm going to be in Sedona next. I mean, that's certainly not my last trip to Sedona, but who knows when I'm going to, I'm in Philly. Like, I don't know when I'm going to be back in Sedona, and it's that weighed on my brain.
Yeah.
It was.
It's more pressure.
It was.
Yeah. This is my chance.
But the old demons is what I was really upset about, because all the old demons in my head, it's not pressure, Danny, and it shouldn't be pressure. It shouldn't be, but it is. We have all these voices in our heads, and it was so childish for me. Like I would look at like Jeff and Joe, and I'm like, and Joe, especially because Joe has never ridden with me. And I'm like, oh, is this what Joe thinks, of me now? Like, oh, here's this, wussy who can't do this thing. And it's like, who thinks like that? Joe certainly doesn't think that way. It's me projecting onto Joe, like as if like I'm going to have this conversation for Joe, since he's not going to have it for me, and he thinks that I'm a wussy.
Yeah.
Like, where is that? Why is that
unfair?
Happening?
Totally unfair to Joe. Totally unfair to like when we do that, like totally unfair to the person that we're like saying, this is probably what they think of me.
Right.
A, B, who cares?
Right? Who cares? Yes.
And C, and I think most importantly is that this is just, we're not our thoughts. We're not who we thought we were. We're not who we think we are, unless we think we're great, because we are. We're unlimited. Anything's possible.
Oh, yeah.
We're fantastic. And I thought you walking away from that took more courage than actually going in and doing it, because I know how much you wanted to do it. I know how well you were riding. Yeah. It takes a lot of courage to say, no, I'm not doing that today. And we saw examples of that this entire trip also, of you, me, or people we were riding with, of saying, I feel great, but not today. And that's entering into that flow state. And that's that worthiness. Riding a rock in the mountains, doing a feature of a rock in the woods, a jump at a park somewhere. We give those things power or we don't. And so you're keeping your own power by saying, I'm not going to do this today. I don't feel right. Something's not right. Whatever that may be, whether it's like physically you were starting to not feel right, which is, what happened to you in this case, or just like I just don't have it today. It's just not there.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I can have it too. Yeah. And we, this is one of the things that we do talk about, is being open to the signs. This was a very clear sign. Like it was like, there was no way. It wasn't even a second thought in my brain, like, oh, I should do this. But, I'm just, let's be open to the signs, and this one was an obvious one of me not feeling well. But sometimes, like you said, hey, I'm just not feeling it today, or I haven't been riding well, or whatever the case is, you're open to all of those things so that when you get to the feature, again, we don't have any expectations. You get to the feature. It's how have I been riding up until this point, and you look in this feature, can I do this? And then 3, do I want to do this? And all of that happens right there and then. We're not thinking about it beforehand. It's right then and there. We're present in the moment. And I love that.
I want to circle back real quickly to the thoughts that were in your mind when you were started to be concerned about what Jeff said and what Joe or what Jeff thought of you, and you started to be concerned of what Joe thought of you. And you had these kind of like these childish thoughts of like, they're not going to think that I'm cool.
Stupid. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And I touched on this for a second, that we're not those thoughts. And you just have to remember that, like, we all grew up, we were kids at some point, and kids are really rough. Kids are really tough on each other.
Yeah.
And we all grew up in that environment where we had these thoughts. I want to show this kid that I'm faster, and I want to show this person, this girl or boy, that I'm good looking, or whatever it is. Like, we all had these insecurities as kids, and sometimes those old thoughts are just still in there, and that's okay. It's okay. You recognized it, and then you let it go, and you don't have to beat yourself up about it. You're giving yourself grace. When we talk about giving ourselves grace, it's also giving yourself grace for having a thought that isn't. Maybe you get stuck in that thought for, in your case, it was for half of the ride back to the car, so maybe it was an hour, right? Or 45 minutes. Maybe you get stuck in one of those thoughts for a week or a year or a day, whatever it is. Just notice that, hey, this thought's not serving me, and I don't need to, I'm not that thought.
Yeah.
You are much more than your thoughts. We're unlimited. We are pure, infinite potential. And so let go of those thoughts and see what comes in there. Instead, you're opening up so much space. So anyone that can relate to that, and I certainly can. Obviously, the way I'm talking about it, I have errant thoughts all the time. It's letting it go and coming back to these things that we're talking about of no expectations, of grace, of letting the day be what it will be. Let the ride be what it will be. There's a real beauty in that. So I'm just really proud of you for walking away from that. I think there's gratitude. I think you have some gratitude for doing so in looking back at that, knowing that was the right move.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I mean, in my head, that walk back, because I couldn't, this feature is so steep and gnarly that you can't carry your bike. I mean, it would be really hard to carry your bike. I couldn't walk,
right?
Let alone carry my bike. And so
people are probably wondering why you just didn't walk the rest of the trail, but it's not walkable. Like, you either roll down it on wheels or you hoof it back. Yeah.
I would be literally rolling down it. Yes.
It's not a hiking trail.
That's how bad I was feeling. No, it's not.
Yeah.
And so I had a really long hike a bike back, tracking all the way back to the car. And the whole time, I'm having these stupid thoughts. And at the very end, it came down to, dude, you have like another 2 weeks of like amazing riding. Like, this was absolutely the right call. Grace for yourself, and let's enjoy the rest of, I'm not going to let this moment crush the rest of my 2 weeks in Arizona. And I didn't. I just immediately let it go and realized how much fun that we had before that happened and how much fun I was going to have going forward. And so that kind of pulled me out of that funk. And you too, talking this out. I mean, we had many conversations on that car ride on this, this thing that I was struggling with. And you helped me through that too. And that's pretty awesome to have a good friend to just kind of coach you through life.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, being able to talk about these sorts of things and the emotions that we have around them. I think it probably didn't hurt that we stayed overnight, and the next day we rode with Arturo, who is a local Sedona rider, and he might even start giving tours because he knows the trails really well, and he's that good of a rider. Yeah. Check out Arturo. Yeah. We'll put his Instagram in the show notes. But we rode with Arturo, and this is a different podcast when we went because we looked at the white line, and then we rode high on the hogs. We rode another double black trail, and you were awesome that day and slayed everything. And there were some really crazy, weird slabs on that trail, really slick slabs on that trail. I fell really early in the ride, which was just kind of like a weird thing that happened. And it was a hard fall. And I was able to finish the ride, but it definitely took the confidence out. I'd been riding at such a high level that it definitely okay, I really don't want to go down again because I hurt. Sometimes when you fall, you just don't want to take a chance of going down again. But there's also a hesitancy can be built up, right? It took me from 100% to 85, and I still had a great day. But you were awesome that day, and it was really interesting to see after you didn't feel well. Then the next day we rode the hogs, and then we rode Sedona Bike Park, and we were unlocking all the jumps on the third jump line, and that was fantastic. It was so cool. And Arturo was unlocking jumps. See, this is a guy who was like, yeah, I don't really know how to jump. And then it turned out he totally knows how to jump.
He totally knows how to jump.
The skills were totally in there, and like, it was just the three of us together, just unlocked them. Let's work on this one. Let's work on this jump. Here's the speed. Follow me in. And every time he just starts stacking wins and wins and wins. And by the end, we were all clearing the entire line of gap jumps. It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When Arturo said that he was not a good jumper, I was like, dude, you are such a good rider. But yes, he had built this up in his brain. He had told himself that he was not a good jumper, that he could not jump. I mean, going back to what Zan was talking about, which is positivity. You and I, this is how we do. This is how we do. We go on a ride and we are just like positive vibe people. And I took a look at Arturo. I was like, all right, let's slow the roll. We're not going to say we're not good jumpers. Let's just take this. Let's break it down and let's see how we do. And he did. And oh boy, did he do. He was, he actually ended up being a better jumper than you and I.
He totally is. Well, he's a much better rider than either of us. I mean, he's a fantastic rider. So he's so centered and skilled and stable, like the jumping and we were riding the trail and he was sending all the drops and everything like that. He's comfortable in the air. Was the skills are just in there. It was just a matter of him knowing it, of him believing it, of him saying yes. You have a really great way of breaking down pieces of trail. You have a really great way of saying, if we can do this, so we can do that. We can do this, so we can do that. And then you did that a ton. You did that at many, many different features. I'm thinking about the on-off at Boulderdash. There's an on-off rock on Boulderdash that I had ridden by, dozens of times. And it just seemed like something that I was never going to do. It wasn't in my consciousness as a goal. Like it wasn't like, I want to hit that in 2025. And I remember saying to you, like, I've never done an on-off, where you jump onto a feature and then you jump off of it. My first one is not going to be this thing, right? I mean, this thing, like it's a gap jump onto this giant rock. The rock is off camber. And then you land into off camber sand. I was just like, no, that's not happening. But you saw it and you started breaking it down. I don't. Yeah, it's interesting because you look at it as like a whole, right? It becomes daunting. But when you start to break things down into pieces, then it becomes manageable, And so I'm looking at the different, the run in, is one feature. I'm looking at the gap to get onto the rock as another thing. I looked at the off camberness of the rock, and then the drop after it. And, when you start thinking about all those things at one time, it's like, whoa, I can't do that. Let's not do that. Right. Can you do this run-in? Yes, you can. Can you do this gap? Yeah, I can. Can you do this drop? Yes, I can. Okay. Let's put it all together. And that's how my brain works, and I'm also relating it to other things that we've done. Like I was like, Danny, we've done a drop this size, maybe it hasn't come, after, a gap to an on camber rock. But like, to me, you and I had been riding Boulderdash. That's where this trail, the on-off is on Boulderdash. And before you get to this, we have been doing all this rock tech. And I've been taking notes, like my tire is not slipping on these rocks. I mean, yes, the terrain is loose, but the rocks themselves are ridiculously grippy. So when I took a look at this off-camber rock, which was like, I don't know, maybe like 35 to 45 degrees. Like it's definitely like off camber. It's awkward. But I was like, that's going to be a non-issue. And I was right. It was a non-issue. Like I trusted the terrain. It was just a question of, can I get the commitment level to hit this gap? And I wasn't worried about the drop. It was like, can I get onto the rock? And that's it. And in my head, I was like, yeah, I can do that. That was it. Yeah. It was the 100% commitment level. And that day we were riding with Mike and we were also riding with AJ. And AJ was coming off of a pretty bad crash and his full suspension bike was in the shop. And so he had his hardtail. And he's like, I'm going to take it easy today, which riding a hardtail on Boulderdash is not taking it easy. Like the Boulderdash is it's a legitimate double black tech trail. It is really hard. So AJ is an awesome rider, but he's also someone that on this full suspension, he's sending all of these gaps. He's doing all of these features. And so we had a coach, that day that said, well, this is the way I do it. And if you hit this and this, and then it flows nicely. And so you start looking at this thing, and I kind of I got my hands crossed, like he can look at it. I'm not doing it, and then you start breaking it down, and I start hearing AJ talk about it, and it's just like, well, wait a second. As you were saying, it was putting it all together was intimidating to me.
Yeah.
You got to get speed and the looseness, and then you got to do this gap jump, and then you got to get up on this rock, and I don't know how the rock's going to feel, and then you're going to have to jump off of it, and what's the landing look like? It was all intimidating to me, all that stuff happening.
Yeah.
But when you just break it down of like, okay, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And really, you're just getting yourself to that commitment level. You're getting yourself to that 100%. I can do this. Yeah. I can do this. I can do this. You're not going. We don't have the processing speed. We're not smart enough to stop and slow down time and think about all these things as it's happening. Yeah. This feature happens in a split second.
Yep.
So you get to the commitment level of, I have the skills to do each one of these things. I feel comfortable with this. And now you do a run up. Okay, I think I got it. And then you go for it. And as you're approaching it, you're like, I got it, I got it, I got it, or stay centered, or eyes up, or whatever mantra helps you, or if you're sage, just silence. But just nothing, which I'm so envious of. I have to be saying something because otherwise thoughts I don't want will come in there. Hunchback jokes will be like flying around. I'm like, no, not now. Quasimodo, not now. Hunchbacks are like, yep, we're going to get you. We're going to get you. Yeah. So really you're just getting yourself to that 100%, and you did it, and you didn't do it perfect, which helped because you were like, Danny, I didn't do it perfect and I got it. And then I did it. And what I noticed was, you're not thinking about it. All you know is I can do it. That work we did of look at this, talk about this, asking AJ every question that we could possibly think of, all that came down to was I can do it. I got it.
Yeah.
And then you're just riding. We're just unlocking those skills that are already in there. We're really good at riding bikes. Stay centered, eyes up.
Yeah.
What's the best that can happen? Visualizing all those really, really good things. Your breathing technique is something I've been using. We talked about that on an episode in season 1. Your breathing technique before doing a difficult feature is something that I've been using a lot. It's really, really helpful. For anyone that doesn't remember or hasn't heard, go back and listen. I'm not going to tell you. You have to, if you don't know which episode it's in, you got to listen to them all. The technique is letting go. You're going to visualize the best that can happen. You're visualizing it exactly the way you want it to happen. You're exhaling all of the air in your body. You take a deep breath and you go. After you visualize the success, that's it. No more thinking. You've got your mantra or nothing. I got this. So it's just that it's like that one last really good visualization. And if you can see it happening and you're 100% sure it can happen, then the skills are in there. You're going for it. You're clearing your mind and watch it unlock. It's awesome.
I love it. Yeah. The only thing I would add is you go on the exhale because it forces you to inhale again. If you go on the intake, then it's possible that the problem is like I hold my breath when I noticed that about myself, that I hold my breath when I get nervous. It's like, no, I want to keep breathing through this. So as soon as you exhale, you go on that, and that forces you to inhale again. At the very least, you're getting at least one more breath in. But I tend to just aggressively breathe through this. Like you'll hear me if you've ridden with me, you'll hear me. I'm just like, I want to blow out the mic here, but yeah, it's an aggressive breathing, and I find that it really helps. Having a good breathing exercise to go through that. It just and because I'm a YouTuber, I'm usually talking through the feature anyway, so it does me no good to hold my breath. I have to talk through these features many times. Yeah.
Yeah. I find myself holding my breath. I've noticed that on some of these difficult, and it really does come back to get you, especially like on a difficult uphill tech section where I can get like 3 or 4 pedal strokes in. And then like, I realize that like I've been holding my breath and I unclip at the same time that I take that first breath. So it's if you can figure out how to breathe or train yourself to breathe and taking that exhale and then you're starting with a big inhale. It's really cool. I noticed, so we unlocked a lot of different things and a lot of cool stuff on these local trails. And then I've gone back and I've ridden some of the trails again. And now I've had a little bit of anxiety, like, oh, I need to go do this really difficult thing now because I've done it once.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to, or like at Boulderdash, like, oh, I want to be able to do the on off and the flow of the ride. I just want to ride, just don't want to have to stop. I don't need to put that pressure on myself. The next time I rode Boulderdash by myself, I came up to the on off and I didn't feel it right away. And I stopped and I looked at it. And then I was like, no, you know what? I do have it. It's okay. It's not, my expectation was that I'm just going to flow into it. I wasn't there, but I went back and I did the one run up and then I went back and then I did it and I felt great. Great. It was awesome. But, putting these expectations of like, now I have to do this. I did this once, so now I have to do it again. Jeff Windsor and I were talking about that on South Mountain. There's the big step up at the Bermuda Triangle. There's like 100 different lines. And one of the more difficult lines is a big step up onto like an uphill rock boulder that continues uphill. And this is something that I saw Mike and Mike and Steph do this when we did our National Climbing Day with Steph, who, if you haven't listened to that episode, she's an awesome pro pivot enduro racer. And her husband, Mike, is like an unbelievable rider. And that day, Jeff was like, watch how Mike gets up this feature. And I've ridden down that thing before. I'd never seen anyone go up it. And I saw Mike ride up this thing, hop up onto it and then pedal through it. And it was just like, blew my mind. Again, this is not something that was on my bucket list. It was not on my bingo card. Like, I didn't expect it. I was like, okay, that's probably not something I'm ever going to do. And then we're riding South Mountain and you look at the size of it and you're looking at the other step ups, the other lifts, as they call them here, that Jeff and I are doing. And you were like, guys, you're lifting up onto this. This is the same size. And we start looking at it with fresh eyes and we sessioned it. And it happened. It was awesome. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But to me, it also, everything that happened that 3.5 weeks that you were here, from Sedona to Boulderdash to South Mountain to Tucson, it's just such an example of our unlimited nature, that anything is possible. And we just allow to happen. So many things happen. And desert trails, clearing, we went to the intermediate line. We tested one of your theories. We're coming up on the end of the pod here, so I don't want to get into too many different subjects, but there was so much just awesome stuff happening. It was like every day we were open to receive and awesome things were happening. We were having so much fun. And our friends out here were also progressing and doing things that they didn't expect.
You know what? On that note, let's go into gratitudes, because you're bringing up all these things, and I'm just like, it was such a beautiful, amazing, perfect vacation. And, my gratitude goes out to primarily you and Lauren for getting me out there, letting me stay with you, and Lynn for letting me borrow her car. All the friends that you had that I adopted, I made my own, everyone there was just so encouraging and so kind. And I instantly felt like they were my friends. It was unbelievable. That all doesn't happen without you and Lauren, telling me you're coming out here, don't worry about it. Just get your rear end out here. And it was, I don't know what to say, Danny. It was, yes. I said yes.
Saying yes. Yeah. Let's make it happen. Let's see what happens. Yes. Let's see what's happened. Let's get you out here and let's see what happens. Yeah. And just like every ride that we did together, almost every ride that we did together, or probably your experience of coming out here was better than anything we could have imagined. So don't imagine it. If you want to visualize something great and fantastic, then go for it. Right. But there's so many possibilities that we can't imagine. Things can be better than we could ever imagine. How about that? Everything is going to work out better than we could possibly imagine. Listener, everything's going to work out better than you could possibly imagine. Sit with that. Live with that. Wake up in the morning. This day is going to go better than I could possibly imagine. What's going to go right for me today? Same thing on the trails. What's going to go right for me?
I love it, Danny. I love it. Hit me.
Well, we love having you out here. Yeah. So, well, my gratitude is absolutely your friendship and all the progression and fun that we had together. We had rides to the trails, ride back from the trails. We had road trips. We had time on the trails. Obviously, that was fantastic. We had all those, great meals, most of them breakfasts at diners. Shout out to Mikey's Diner, which is where we spent a lot of our time, and the hillside spot. Yeah, it was just so great spending time together. And I would say your positivity and the everything that you brought, your perspective that you brought. I thought everything was kind of encapsulated really well on one of our rides when we were in Tucson. We rode 50 Year Trail, and we had a great group of guys that day. And Vaughn was on that ride, and we were looking at this feature that you had done 4 years ago, where you had like somehow gotten your bike into position off of this ledge to do like a pedal kick, and then you finished the feature, which has like this really weird like turn on with two rocks in between. I mean, it's just like really awkward. And I remember when you did it, I was like, how did you do that? Like, how did that just happen? It was unbelievable. And so we got to that feature, and I'm going to give it a shot. I'm approaching it, and you're like, hold on, Danny, I'll get the camera out. And I was like, dude, I really don't think I'm going to get this. Like, I don't know if you need to worry about the camera. And you were like, no, that's not what we say. That's not how we approach it. You totally got this. You totally got it. Go for it. And Vaughn just starts laughing. He just starts shaking his head and laughing. He was like, man, I love the way that you guys hold each other accountable for your positivity. I love the way that you hold each other accountable for your mindset. Like, you weren't going to let me get away with saying no. Maybe, right? You were saying, no, you got this. And I just thought that really, encapsulated everything really well. That yes attitude. Let's see what happens. What's the best that can happen? And so for me, my gratitude is absolutely your friendship and all the positivity and all the conversations that we had and all the encouragement, and then and of course, doing this podcast together. That's why we love doing this podcast. We love encouraging each other, and we love encouraging all riders that we meet. And what better vehicle than a podcast to get our message out to everybody that, mountain biking is fun. Let's enjoy it. You're unlimited life riding. It's just what's the best that can happen. And we're better than we could ever imagine. I love it.
Ain't that the truth, man? I mean, what to say to that, except to say, I being in Philadelphia, not being able to be with you. And it's wonderful that we get to do this pod, and I get 1 hour that I know that I'm going to be with you, but it's not the same. It's when we're riding together, you and I are together, there is accountability. There's also just like this friendship is just so important. And it's really hard to find someone that you can relate to on so many different levels. It's not just the riding, but it's all the riding. And it's not just, family. It's all the family, it's everything. And it's hard to build that and find that. And to be able to hang with you again, and then just have, bouncing that positive vibe off of each other again was fantastic. So, thank you. And I feel the same way about you, my friend.
It's really interesting that you say that. Is I feel like our rides together, the energy level the vibe was just higher. It was just higher. We have such history. We have such trust in each other. We have so much fun together. We're cracking jokes and just having fun and so much encouragement that those rides, like, there's just a higher level of energy, and the people that we were with were picking up on that. And I think that there was more confidence and more flow, and just like, and everyone looking with different perspective. And I think that, like, rising tide lifts all ships. I think I got that right.
Oh, that's good. Oh, nice.
Something like that. Quasimodo, you can write in and let me know if I got it wrong. RNL@gmail.com. But yeah, it was just really cool. There was absolutely something about you and I riding together, and everybody kind of like feeding off of that energy and that friendship. And just gratitude. Mountain biking, it's so much fun. There's so many synchronicities between riding and life that it just kind of overwhelms me sometimes with gratitude. It's just like, wow, I can learn so much of the lessons that I learned on the bike when I apply them to life as well.
Well, you brought up a lot of keywords there that go right into my mountain bike tip, which is, confidence and fun and, and positivity and all these things. And my mountain bike tip is, okay, how can we take that and how can we approach features? And we have briefly talked about, how we break things down so that you can do a feature easier. So you're not taking things all in whole. And that is my mountain bike tip. If you're getting to a feature and we had talked about the on-off rock, but you're right. We had applied this technique several times. We did it with Arturo on that jump line. Instead of trying to look at the whole jump line, we took the jump line apart and we broke it down to each individual jump. We also did it at Hawes when we were doing the NRA pit jumps. They have this infamous section where it's 3 gap jumps in a row. And if you look at that whole thing as a whole, it's very daunting. You're like, well, maybe I could do one of these, but I don't know if I could do all 3. And it's like, stop, just stop. Let's take care of one gap first and then take care of the second, take care of the third before we're not just going to put it all together right away. We're just going to take this and we're going to break it apart. And that's my mountain bike tip. If you're looking at a line and the line looks daunting, break it up into sections. And when you start clearing one section, okay, let's take the next section or maybe add it to another section. And you just slowly build up. First of all, it's going to build up your confidence. But second of all, it's going to allow your mind to breathe. And if you're struggling with like, oh, well, can I even do it? Well, we had talked about bringing a tape measure with us once before, but even if you don't have a tape measure, just take a visual note. I'm looking at these gaps on the NRA pit jumps. And I'm like, I've done a gap that big. Have I done 3 in a row? No, I've never done 3 in a row like that. So close together, but I've done a gap that big.
In the sand, coming off of a crazy, weird berm turn. Yes.
Berm. Yeah, exactly. But so I wasn't even thinking about the berm turn. Like the first gap we hit, forget the berm turn. Like, let's just straight line it, and let's take the last gap that we had the most time to think about. I've done a gap that size. I know I've done gaps this size and even the next gap up and the next gap up. Every single one, I was like, okay, I've done this. And so we started stacking the wins. Suddenly putting all 3 together made sense. And all 3 of us, you, me, and Mike, by the way, did it again, the best out of all of us. He was like, I'm not a good jumper. And here he is like absolutely waxing the table, that actually there was no table, it was a gap, but he was absolutely waxing these jumps. Unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah, he has a really good boost. He has a really nice arc in the air. He said he's from Florida and he was doing a lot of jumping before he moved here to Arizona. And he was like, but I kind of forgot. And when I heard that, this was before we started, I was like, well, dude, the skills are in there. Like they're literally in there. You actually have them. Like, you have them. It's not just unlocking them and discovering them like you used to do jumping. So it was just a confidence thing. But that was because the way that you broke down each jump. Let's do the 4th one first. And then it's just a matter of time. I've hit all of these now. And then all of a sudden you're doing jump, jump, jump. You're doing all 3 in a row. And then you're flowing into that 4th one. And it felt awesome when you start hitting them all.
Awesome.
It's just awesome. It's worth it. I don't have the patience. A lot of times I don't have the patience to break it down and walk and look at it and take my time. I just want to be able to hit. I just okay, I've done those 3 before. I want to be able to go and do it again right away.
Yeah.
I'm not at that level to just go and do it blind. I need to warm up. I need to stack wins. And you really have a lot of patience to say, let's look at each one. Let's make sure that you're comfortable. You're stacking these wins. And I love that of also comparing what the jump looks like to something. Okay, I've done something like this before. It's really special. It's really awesome to be able to have a riding friend that does that.
Oh, thanks, Danny. Well, you were amazing that whole trip, and you were inspiring confidence in me too. So right back at you, buddy.
Well, man, awesome doing another episode. Awesome getting into season 2. Season 2 is going to be completely unlimited. I mean, if you go back and you listen to season 1, the progression that we have on our bikes and the way that the things that we can do, like you start off not being able to jump at all. And I start off being way behind on my bike. Like there's like a point in the season where I'm like, oh wait, I've been riding wrong my entire life. And we're like, we're pretty deep into our mountain bike career. So we've been riding bikes for a long time. And so the podcast, there's progression here in the podcast. There's progression for us. There's progression for our listeners. That's what it's all about. And starting off season 2, I'm just so excited to see where it goes. Everyone, please, if you're enjoying, please rate and subscribe on your podcast player. Please give us 5 stars. Make sure that you give a thumbs up on YouTube. Watch to the end. Watch time matters. Comments help, but we also love our comments because we can respond to them. But if you just want to drop us a line and say, that you enjoyed it, that certainly helps the algorithm. And if you want to send us a longer message, rideandlaugh1@gmail.com. And we respond to everybody as quickly as we can. But we certainly appreciate all of our listeners. And we appreciate everyone that's coming on this journey with us. We're super, super excited for season 2. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being on board with us. If you are interested in making a donation, we're now accepting super thanks. So you can help keep the lights on at the Ride and Laugh headquarters a little bit. Sage, anything to add, or go ahead and wrap it up?
Man, you said it all, brother. You said it all.
All right. Well, if you're still listening, you're definitely one of us. You love mountain biking. We appreciate you. As I said, rate and subscribe on your podcast players. Give us a thumbs up and tell your friends. Everybody have a fantastic week and a great week of riding. Ride and laugh.
I'll see everyone.